From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is a Varsity update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with high school sports beat writer Jacob Unruh. Jacob, it is championship week. A few have been set for 2 weeks in that big class, 6A, 6A1, 6A2. We got the rest of the finalists last week in most of the classes, a few that are still at semifinals. But let's start with those big classes. 6A1, maybe not as much interest around here because it is a very east side centric final with Broken Arrow and Jinx. But 6A2, Stillwater, Bixby, a program that has kind of struggled to get over the playoff hump in Stillwater, and Bixby, a team that has not. This is this is a really great matchup.
Yeah, you know, this is the 1-2 matchup. This is the matchup you've been waiting for all postseason. Stillwater hasn't been in the title game since 1977. Wow. 95 was their last district title, so they hadn't won very many playoff games in a long time. They've built from the ground up essentially under Coach Tucker Barnard. Gunnar Gundy at quarterback has been a huge part of that. Quantrill Walker at running back has had a breakout season behind a huge offensive line. But you get the Bixby team that has all the experience in the world in this situation. They've been in every 6A2 title game since the class was formed. They've won all but one of them. They lost last year to Booker T. And they come back, and they're actually a team that's almost a surprise to some this season because they graduated so much talent from last year and the runs before that you kind of wondered, what are they going to do? And then they bring in a sophomore quarterback named Mason Williams, who's thrown for 36 touchdowns, had a huge breakout season, wow. And they've kind of rolled. And so you look at this and go experience versus inexperience, but you kind of still lean towards the undefeated Stillwater a little bit. Yeah,
it's a great matchup for sure. Let's talk about 5A because, again, another fantastic matchup. Undefeated teams at that in Carl Albert and Ardmore. Carl Albert going for yet another undefeated state championship. Unbelievable run for the Titans.
They just keep winning, don't they? I mean, that's just what they do. It's 35 straight wins now. It's the state's longest active winning streak. Mike Corley's undefeated as a head coach. Ben Harris is undefeated as a quarterback. He's a sophomore, has yet to lose as a quarterback. And they're coming in red hot, obviously. I mean, they came off last week against a win against another undefeated team in Collinsville. They're tied at halftime. Dadrian Taylor runs for over 200 yards in the second half, 3 of his 5 touchdowns. And they go on to win. And now they get this Ardmore team that hasn't been in the title game in a long time either. They run more power, option type stuff, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, big offensive line. It's going to be a really huge challenging matchup. I think this is the team that I think everyone has circled that could really challenge Carl Albert this year.
All right, and lastly, 4A as far as championships we'll talk about today. Bethany and Tuttle, 2 local Oklahoma City Metro teams meeting at UConn for that title, and what a game Bethany came through in the semifinal. I mean, and I know Tuttle had a tough one too against Poto, but these are 2 teams that have really had to prove themselves to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, Bethany especially, you know, Bethany loses to Tuttle in the regular season 30-7. So they've already played this once. It didn't go well for Bethany, but they've learned a lot from that since then. Sam Brand has caught fire. They've beaten really good teams on the way. You know, Clinton last week was Bethany gets up 21-0, and then doesn't happen to win in overtime, a double overtime against, you know, they just can't hold that lead against a really good Clinton team that came on strong. And now they get a Tuttle team that I think is one of the most battle-tested teams in the state. They beat 4 top 10 teams between 3A, 4A in the regular season. Last week they beat Poto, an undefeated number 2 that came with a lot of talent. They've passed every test. And now, you know, it's only fitting that I think these 2 teams that have played such tough schedules are back at each other.
I got to ask you lastly about 2 teams not yet to the championship level, but 2 games last week that caught my eye. Heritage Hall, number 1, putting up 69 points in their quarterfinal. I mean, they've been explosive, but I did not expect to see that number. And then the Beggs come back. I wrote about Beggs last week, what they're coming through with the loss of Kason Tolliver. An unbelievable comeback. Those 2 games really caught my attention, Jacob.
Well, you know, Heritage Hall actually is in championship this week against Sulphur.
Okay.
You know, that really surprised me. I thought that game would be high scoring against Lincoln Christian because they both scored a ton of points. Yeah. But 69, even I called Coach Brett Bogert and was like, hey, what was this? What was this? He said things just clicked offensively. Connor Carey's had a huge season for them. A breakout at running back. He's a soccer player too. Had a really good season. Billy Ross Jr. Had a really nice game the other night. And with the emergence of Jackson Jobe at quarterback has really kind of lifted them late in the season. Quarterback was a position they struggled at early in the year, and he's kind of found his way. But then switching gears to Beggs, my goodness, this team, you know, I think that's what I tweet. This team, I mean, how do you win in dramatic fashion? going through everything. It was their last home game since the tragedy. To go in there, your back's against the wall, and you still find a way. I mean, they keep writing this Hollywood-type story that it can only get better from here at this point. I mean, you know, if they win the championship next week, then I mean, that's easily the best story I've seen in high school sports, and you really root for them. Yeah,
a touchdown in the last minute of the game to win that game, and just some unbelievable stuff. We expect more unbelievable stuff with all those championship games this week. Be sure to check out all our coverage for game times, locations, even some TV listings for those top 3 classifications. You'll be able to check that out on TV if you can't actually get out and see the games yourself. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.